Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 8 of my Midnight Mission series, and in this video we're going to go ahead and add more details to the mission, and also we're going to work on the well and the old tree and around the front of the mission a little bit. If you're following along traditionally, check out part 1 in this series where I have a list of all the paint and canvases and the brushes that I use. We're going to be using Infinite Painter for Android, and we're going to go ahead and start working on the side windows of the mission and trying to get them lined up and get the perspective right on them. So you want to go ahead and pick your dark umber color, and here I'm working a little bit more on the front, but I'm going to go ahead and start working on these side windows. And what we want to do is try to line them up at the bottom and keep them in perspective with the roof and also the bottom of your mission on the right side. So here I'm kind of darkening the right side a little bit because it'll be sort of away from the moonlight, and so you kind of want a little bit of a darker adobe color, and you can just add some more purple, maybe some dark umber to the mixture that you use on the front of the mission. And what I wanted to do was kind of make the texture a little bit rougher here, and as you can see, you can have several different kinds of texture if you like in Infinite Painter. Here I've picked sort of the sandpapery rough texture, and these textures work really well with the paint category and using the Leo brush and the Angelo brush and all those different kinds of brushes. And so I wanted to go ahead and just kind of get that texture. Again, we want the rough adobe looking texture on the whole church, so I just want to go ahead and add that on there. And then here I want to go ahead and line up the bottom of the windows. And so take your perspective guide or your ruler if you're following along traditionally and find your original vanishing point. Make sure that it's the same as the roof and the bottom of your mission there, and go ahead and line up the bottom of your windows, because the windows on this side will be in perspective, and also the top of your windows too. Even though they'll have a rounded arch, they'll still be in perspective too. So go ahead and use the brown color that you use to make the plaster on the back, and use it to go ahead and make the bottom of your windows line up in perspective there. Once you get that done, then you can go back and refine the shape of your windows using burnt umber and dioxazine purple and all the dark colors. So just go ahead and make sure that your windows are straight on the sides going up and down, because that part is parallel, it's not perspective. So you want to go ahead and make sure that the up and down lines are straight, even on the edge of the adobe building too. And just keep on using a little bit of burnt umber, and you can use your script brush for this, or you can use your flat brush if you want to for the edges, but you probably want a little bit better control, so you want small brushes here. And you can go ahead and just add the burnt umber or the dioxazine purple. And here I'm using the straight edge tool in Infinite Painter, and you can just use a ruler or a T-square if you're following along traditionally. But you want the edges of your windows straight when they're going up and down, because parallel lines are not perspective. So then we want to go ahead and kind of add the archway above the windows, the little arch looking, because you want to make it match the ones in the front, and just keep it kind of uniform, and that's kind of the way the windows were made in my original material anyway. Even though the church was a ruin, you could tell that the windows were that way. So go ahead and make sure that you've got the tops of the windows in perspective too. Even though they're going to be rounded, they're still in perspective there. And then I saved it again right quick, because when you've got something going right, save it so you don't lose it and have to do it over again, because I've done that before and it's no fun having to get it right again. And so the next thing that we want to try to do is add a little bit of moonlight along the edge of the building on the right side. And this is just where the moon is catching the edge of it across the top. So you can use cadmium yellow light and just make a broken line on the top. And here I'm adding this thing called Vigas. And what Vigas are the poles that go across the roof of adobe buildings, and they stick out on the edges. And so you want to add the poles and then make the ends of them look a little bit round. And these are an interesting thing that gives the adobe buildings their identity, and it's something that you see on lots of different pueblos and different styles in New Mexico, and they put them in the churches too. And then we want to go ahead and work on the steps just a little bit. Like I said, they don't need to be fancy, just some little steps right there. Just add some lighter brown color, a little bit of light yellow and brown mixed together, and just add a little bit of color there on the top of the steps to make them look old. And then we want to work on the old tree, just add a little bit of a edge to it, and you can use cadmium yellow light and white. Just kind of outline the edges of the branches where you think the moon would be hitting, the light from the moon would be hitting it, and it would be coming from the right side there. So just add faint touches on there, and it doesn't have to be very wide. You just kind of want broken lines, thin broken lines, and then you can go add a little bit of purple to darken it, give it the bark-like texture, and go ahead and work on the dirt again a little more. And then I thought I would work on the well, and the well was a little bit too bright, and it also needed the edge, the front edge, brought up a little bit, because that didn't look exactly right with its perspective. So go ahead and just kind of darken it down with a purplish color or a dull gray or a grayish brown, and bring the rim up a little bit more, kind of make it rounder again, because the rocks give it sort of a real round look there in the front. And then I went ahead and added some more stones to the path, since we've corrected the course of the pathway. And the rocks that are in the shadow of the adobe building are going to be kind of muted looking, so I used a light brown, probably burnt umber, with a little bit of purple in it, or burnt sienna. Go ahead and make some rocks around the well, like they've got some rocks there that you can walk on, and just put a little bit of dark at the edge of the well, like there's a shadow. I've gone back over the rocks a little bit, making it look like there's more dirt there instead of quite so many rocks, and that just sort of settles the picture down, and they don't look quite as glaring, and they don't take your eye away from the main focus, which is supposed to be the mission. And I've also just smoothed them out a little bit, and then I went back and worked on the well some more. Just add a little bit of dark on this side, because it's facing away from any light that's going to be coming from the mission or the moon. And just go about smoothing it, adding a little bit of pockets of dark and light, kind of like you do clouds and snow. You would do the same thing with the dirt. Just add pockets of dark and light, and that gives the shape of dirt clods and dirt piled up against the building, and sort of rocks that are half buried in the dirt. And just little things like that that kind of make your dirt come alive and make it look more realistic. Add a little bit of white. That gives it the impression of rocks and in the dirt there, just sort of half buried, and just kind of work on that a little bit, but we just wanted a more muted looking instead of quite so bright because it's going to be more in the shadow. And then add a few more rocks on the top of the well with a little bit lighter purple, but keep it kind of muted since it's not going to be in real bright light here. This is the end of part 8 of my Midnight Mission series, and the next part is going to be the very last one, and that's where we're going to add all the final details, including putting candles in the window and just touching up the mission and the well and just adding touches to the bushes and just getting the whole final look of the painting. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.